we are going to have a short interview session. And first, we're going to interview the panel of table topic contestants. So please, could you come up to the stage? I will ask one question to each contestant, and then I leave some of the questions to all the audience. So think about it. You can prepare one question as well. So my question is the same to all of you. If you had a second chance, how would you have answered it differently? If you have a second chance, you know, it was a very short response time, and if you had a second chance, now that you have been thinking about this question, what's the most precious thing to you? And then thinking about your answer, is there anything you want to add?
Yeah, definitely. I think I would understood the question. That's why I would like to give the second opportunity. Definitely I would answer that in a different way. I would have two really quick one. Two answers. One material and one not material. Immaterial, I'd say. The material one is books. So the most precious thing I have is books. I don't have a house. My wife has a house. I don't have a car. My wife has a house. I have books, so I'm the guy with books. And that's the material one. The immaterial one, probably the lessons I learned from parents, from family, from everybody really. Professors, friends, colleagues, leaders, managers. Those lessons, they are the most precious things I got. And I have to work just for that. So because I can't change the world, I can change it myself. So I can use all of the lessons I've learned from you guys, actually.
Thank you. What about you, Chuka?
I believe that the answer that I gave is still holds true. I was speaking to Carlo, and I believe that maybe a more philosophical approach might be considered. Like my parents, my family, while they brought me up and they brought me into what I am today, they could have also gone a different route and brought me up with dealing drugs or doing crime or whatever. So the fact is that it's not solely because that my parents that I'm grateful for them, that they're precious, they're the most precious thing to me, but the fact that the values and their values were righteous, and they imparted those values onto me in the most beneficial way, such that I could grow into the person that I am today.
Okay, thank you. What about you, Kenny?
I think it's definitely difficult to give a perfect table topic speech, so to improve it, I would have kept the same central theme about speech being precious to me, but maybe just improve my opening. I think adding a bit of suspense to what I'm going to talk about and not being too forthright to begin with, but yeah, I mean, table topics is table topics, nothing too serious. Yeah.
That's a good answer. What about you, Alan?
I just got a message from my dad, so I would have probably included my dad along with my mom, so my parents.
Okay, that's fair enough. So, any audience have a question that you want to ask? Judges?
How did you prepare to the contest?
We didn't.
No preparation.
No preparation. I just jump on a bike that came in from the office.
I mean, I already did. I was preparing for the English speech, so I did some preparation myself.
I had a coffee, but I don't think that helped.
I think I've given some speeches on myself before, so I just sort of steal my own ideas from the past sometimes.
Yeah, I agree. I think coming to Toastmaster and do speeches every week is part of the long-term preparation. And what about the other questions?
What would you say to anybody that didn't step forward to be a contestant today, to become a contestant next time?
You made a big mistake. But seriously, you should try your hand at it, because I don't think no one's gonna care if you mess up, but you still get some amount of practice out of it.
Yeah, it's all about self-improvement, and there's nothing to lose, especially with table topics, all you have to do is turn up. There is no preparation really required, so just turn up and have as much fun as possible.
I believe that this club in particular, Imperial College Speakers, is one of the most friendly societies that you can encounter. And when you come up to the stage, it doesn't matter if you fail completely, if you blunder all your sentences, just do the worst performance that the world has ever seen. We are such a supportive community that even if you try and you're not good, or you're not good at the beginning, because you will always get better. Just think about it, like if you're at the bottom of the mountain, then there is no way that you can go lower unless you like start digging. In which case, yeah. So you can only and always go higher. So just try and keep on trying, because that's how all of the most successful speakers started.
I would say the same thing, really. It's more, rather than a competition among others, it's like more a competition for yourself. This is the way I thought it, really. It's like, okay, the others would be better than me because it's just the second time I came here. But it's just for myself, because it's about like the trajectory of your personal development. How do you want to get in 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 50 years, and towards that. But yeah, that kind of thing. So it's more about competition for yourself. And I think it's the best way to inspire others. So if you're competing always against others, no one is going to say, oh, this is a very inspiring guy. But it's all about competition for you, with yourself.
Yeah, I can give my answer as well. I mean, as the president of the club, I think it's also it's not that much a big mistake, but we are going to provide you with another chance to try next term. So next term is going to be focused on prepared speeches and evaluations, which are all very important as well. So if you didn't come as a contestant today, try sign up next time and use all the time, every meeting, every week as your preparation. And can we have one more question? Yeah.
Yeah. So, question to Anna and Chuka, whose answer were about family. If your family member happened to be sitting in this room, would you change how you answer the question?
So, if my family was sitting in this room, then I would be very grateful that they were in my presence, and I would probably be more exaggerative, maybe. I would probably, because of course I told you just like the bare truth of what happened to me, but in reality the details were gory and they were thrilling, and there were all of these exotic emotions that I can't really address in the time frame that I was given. So I think if my family was here, it would be like a motivation for me to just because we experienced that kind of bond that I was alluding to. I would probably have been able to speak more speak more eloquently on these deep emotions that I felt.
I would have talked about something else because you don't want to pick them up too much.
Well, that's a fair enough answer. And do we have more questions? If not, we'll move on to the humorous contestants. Yeah, Chuka can stay. And thank you all very much for the So again, I've got one question for our two contestants, which is, what do you think is are the key ingredients of giving a humorous speech, or just being humorous, being entertaining in general? What are the key building blocks?
I think humor. I think everybody has the talent of humor. People like it's a myth. I think it's a myth that people think that humor is a kind of genetic thing that people have, that certain people have. But in fact, we have humor and we experience humor every day. A lot of our conversations will have humor in it. It's unlikely for you to be in a conversation and at least one person not laughing. So I think humor just has to be natural. And you have to really, because all of our experiences, we all have experiences where we can relate to humor and sadness and fear and like almost basically the whole spectrum of emotion we can relate to. So it's just a matter of really like kind of researching your own life to see which parts are the most humorous. And even if you don't think that they're humorous and glamorous at the start, other people might think that. Just because you have experienced what you've experienced, obviously, other people might not have. So it might come as surprising and unexpected to others, in which case that will elicit emotions that are filled with humor and filled with other emotions that you may not have intended for.
Yeah, I'd echo that. So I think just when you say things and you say them confidently or you say things very nonchalantly, sometimes people can find that more funny than if you're trying to be funny, which is why I never really try to be funny. So it, something that's surprising, something that people don't often say quite so bluntly, or something that just rolls off your tongue when you're relaxed and you're calm and you're in that kind of frame of mind. I think that tends to be something that is good to include in a humorous speech, so then it's just a bit more lighthearted and it's a bit more kind of relaxing and it brings everyone's moods up. So I think keeping positive as well within the humour, or even actually just insulting yourself but doing it in a light-hearted way, I think that's a good tactic to use.
I think you all share one common point, which is that you have to be very comfortable and natural, or you're confident in some scenarios, so you could feel comfortable to be humorous.
Can I raise another one? I think so for the research that I did on my speech, I kept a journal. So I've been documenting my experiences every day, and on that day in particular, I wrote out a lot in my journal. So I was able to use that as a reference for all of the jokes that I incorporate into my speech. So that's why maybe it sounded natural to you, and that's because it was how I wrote it in my journal. So my call to action is to keep a journal, so that because it's not only humor, it's other emotions as well.
Totally agree. It's all emotions. You have to make people laugh. So, any audience have questions? Yeah.
So, how do you come up with your topics?
So mine was actually recent. So it was only 2 weeks ago. Yeah. I was actually quite skeptical to give a humorous speech at first, because I kind of racked my brains to figure out a humorous speech, to figure out a topic that had any humor in it. So I don't know, maybe I was looking too far back in time, but when in reality that occurrence 2 weeks ago was actually humorous enough. So I just had to do a little bit of browsing in my journal, and then I found I used the Journey app, so it's just easy to just scroll down to look at past experiences and to see whether there are humorous points that I can just blow out into a speech.
How about you, Sadia?
So I think someone mentioned coming to every single week, just come. I think it was you actually. Come, practice the speeches, and then that will help shape your future ones and what you say in the future. And actually, when I was doing a speech, it was about positive thinking, and I had to keep a journal, like Chuka said, about everything that I was thinking and kind of identifying and like diagnosing when I was being negative. And there was one scenario which I actually was really upset about, and I had to put it in because that's what the brief was. And then I was saying it out loud, and it was just so ridiculous that I started laughing in the speech, and I wasn't expecting to. And so it was kind of just like identifying what sounds normal in your head, and then when you say it out loud, it sounds really, really like bizarre to yourself and also to the audience. And so then I was just like, okay, let me just do this about, an instance in the past, and I think actually it helped me get over that incident now, because I've said it out loud, and actually I've never spoken to anyone about this now until this point. But it is just such a ridiculous thing, and it was just honest. It happened to me before, and it's just seeing the positive in it and using what you learn in Toastmasters and bringing that forward. So, yeah.
I think another common line in their answer is they all found their speech theme from previous experiences. It's not a very structured framework to formulate this speech, so we all have this kind of experience, and you can find humor from your experiences. So I see you have one more question.
Yeah. So do you think it's kind of different to the way to incorporate the humor into the speech and daily conversation are different? What do you think? What's your opinion?
Yes.
So we subtle?
I mean, I like in daily conversation, I'm horrible at incorporating humor. I try, I think the Toastmasters journey is slowly helping me become more confident, and that confidence is giving me the power to use more tactics in my everyday conversation, including incorporating humor. But before, I used to be on the verge of antisocial. I used to not use humor at all, and my content lacked any flavor at all. So people, I would just start a conversation. Oh no, I wouldn't start a conversation. People will be in the middle of conversation, and because I haven't spoken for 10 minutes, so I would think that I will have to speak. So I just butt in for no apparent reason, and I say just a random thing how is the weather today, and then the conversation would just move on and forget about me.
It sounds exactly like me.
Maybe I can answer your question a bit. So if you want to put humor in normal speech, I think being confident in your exaggeration, to exaggerate your conversation, right? And be confident about your exaggeration.
Yeah, I definitely exaggerated a lot of the things that I addressed in my speech. For example, the £16.30 thing. I mean, it was actually £16.33 for the 35-inch and the £6.39 for the. But then I just rounded it down because it would have been more cataclysmic if they were both the same. And the prison cell thing. I mean, to be honest, I think that's actually not that I've seen a prison cell in real life, but the way that I see it described in films and stuff like that, I think that they are similar inside, definitely. I think in reality, but yeah, a lot of things that I said were actually quite exaggerated.
Yeah, I agree with Chuka and Natwa. A little bit exaggeration definitely amplify the emotions. So what do you think, Sadia? How do we add humor into things?
I think it depends on the context of the situation. So if I said something in a conference or something, if I said anything that I said in this conversation in a conference, it would have a very different effect if I said it in a conversation with friends. So I think kind of understanding who you're speaking to and kind of where they're coming from. If they're students like you, then they probably know what it feels like to have someone senior kind of asking you about something. And then just being relatable as well. I think that really helps. I think just kind of, if you can see something positive in something, just put an interesting spin on it, or an out of the way, out of the box kind of perspective on it, like Chuka did. Yeah, I think that helps.
Yeah, so do a bit of homework of understanding who your audience are, and that's going to help. So, one more
I
question.
have one question for you, Sadia. Bukowski's quote. So where would you put him on that spectrum of confident or self-doubting? And do you therefore agree with his proposal of intelligent or stupid?
So I think in order to I chose Bukowski as all of his quotes I find very, very interesting because they're always very profound. And I think in order to come up with a statement that you will probably hear in popular media, or maybe kind of underground popular media, you have to be very philosophical and very analytical. And I think in terms of categorizing him as a person based on one quote, it's kind of difficult to do because yes, he might have said that, but he could have also been thinking the exact opposite and then said it because that's what the norm in society is. And he's probably overthinking it, almost like I'm overthinking it slightly. So yeah, I think it really depends on how you consider it and the context of the situation that you're in. I mean, it could be applied to everyone because that's what's normal in society now, and then very few people are the opposite, and then it could also be flipped around the exact other way. So it's difficult to say. I mean, it depends on which mindset he was in when he wrote it. And the only way I find out is by asking him, really.
Yeah, we've got time for one more question. Yeah, Carlo?
How long did you spend in preparing your speeches?
So how much time did you spend in preparing?
Okay, so I was actually going to include it in my speech in my early draft. The start it didn't elicit so many responses. So, but I was going to write. I was going to write, but then I was going to say that to boost my productivity, I know that to boost my productivity, I would be early. You would think that I would prepare long for my speech because I'm productive, or I want to be productive. But in fact, I only started writing my speech yesterday.
Oh.
I started researching, I started writing, I started drafting yesterday, and practicing. So actually, that was it. It was actually almost like an impromptu speech. Just like a better rehearsed impromptu speech, but the way that I delivered it was actually kind of surprising. I thought that I might not be able to be in time. That's majorly why I cut down a lot of things. I was actually going to explain things like eBay because I thought that people wouldn't. For me personally, I use Amazon, so I thought that people might have the same experience. They wouldn't know what eBay was, but have the experience of Amazon. But I noted that when I included it, it was 7 minutes and 20 seconds. But then when I removed it, it went down to just 7 minutes and 3 seconds or something. But then in reality, I did actually spend a few 5 hours or something.
What about you, Steady?
I think I confirmed I was going to do the speech on Sunday or Monday. So I had 3 days to think. 4 days to think about it. I had no ideas. until yesterday, and then I scrapped that idea for this morning because I didn't want it to be so forced that it wasn't. So I feel like with humour, it has to be genuine. It has to be something that's happened. So this morning I was kind of diffused thinking about it, giving myself time for ideas to come up, and then I spent maybe an hour writing it, an hour deleting what I wrote, and then rewriting it again. And then I think I did maybe 1 or 2 practices, but then they weren't going great. So then I was like, okay, I'm just gonna see what happens, because I feel like with humour, it's not one of those things that you can prepare for like an essay or like a business case presentation. It's just one of those things that has to kind of flow off the tongue. So yeah, I don't know if any of that played into kind of perfecting it near the end, but that was just my process.
Actually, their answers are very similar, but it's not very surprising to me because Chuka and Sadia have been very active for the past few months, and they have been giving speeches, sometimes with a humorous project title as well. So they have been practicing their humor skill, or in general public speaking skills, for several months. And the more you do it, the less nerves you have, the more confident you are, and the less time you need to prepare. And just to give you an example, like our previous president shared an example last time. He just passed his PhD Viva, which is a very big thing. But the point I'm trying to make is, he told me he spent nearly no time in preparing for the Viva, and he still got a very good result. And I think that's also because he has been here and practicing his speaking skills every week. Step out of your comfort zone and come to the meetings. So thank you all for your speeches and your answers.